If you're someone who struggles with consistent solid contact and no matter what you try, you're not able to keep your arm straight through the ball, in today's video, Rob and I are going to show you why that happens and 2 key moves you need to do to be able to solve that. Let's dive right in. To my right, Mr. Rob Cheney.
Eric.
Appreciate you.
Great to be here.
If you guys haven't seen the first 2 videos we did, we'll link those at the end. Go and watch those after. In today's video, really like part 3, Rob, which is all about working through the golf ball.
Yeah.
We talked in video 1 a little bit about getting the arms down.
Yeah.
We talked in video 2 about really getting the weight forward and get the body moving. But how do we get through the ball? And I think there's 2 things, Rob, that we see a lot of golfers struggle with if you are that person who really is trying to keep the arm straight but can't, and your contact is off. 2 big body moves.
Yeah.
We see golfers struggle and not understand how to go from left tilt to right tilt in the downswing.
Yeah.
And the inability to go from being flex forward to extension. And so maybe let's start with the flex forward to extension piece.
Okay.
And we'll show some B-roll as we go, understanding wise of us choreographing some of the movements.
Yeah.
So you guys can see it, but let's work through the flexion extension part during the downswing.
So flexion extension, flexion is the bending forward of a segment. We'll focus on the torso, it's easiest to see. Other segments are flexing and extending throughout the golf swing, but let's just use the torso.
Yep.
I'd say at this point, this description of the swing in 3 dimensions is pretty much accepted now across the board. No one's arguing with this anymore. They used to, and this was first written and described correctly by Andy Plummer and Mike Bennett, who we both know very well.
Yep.
Stack and tilt. So whenever anybody says to me, such and such player doesn't do stack and tilt, they do stack and tilt, because this is the description of how every player moves. So flexion, coming down into the ball. Eric, people who watch those first 2 videos, especially the last one, they'll know that the down and forward in the sequencing in the downswing was to go down towards the ball and for the body to regain that forward bend. Looking from down the line camera, that would just look like the golfers back into their original posture, I think we could say.
Yep.
But if you were to stay in posture for forever, if you didn't change that bend, the golfer would swing through and they'd look something like this. Unfortunately, all too common an occurrence on our lesson tee. And for you watching, you might see that in your own swing. That is a golfer bending their arms, having to bend their arms, and that's an important part of this discussion. You're absolutely forced to bend your arms to slow the golf club down. The force of the golf club moving through the ball has to go somewhere. So the joints are deciding that rather than getting pulled out of their sockets, I have to bend my arms and slow this club down because I'm not moving my body correctly. So what good players do, to your point, they don't stay in flexion. As they're coming through the ball, they extend out of the forward bend, which would now have my torso bent backwards. Whereas in the original part of that description and that drill, I was bent forwards.
Yeah, and we're going to show a drill in a little bit with an alignment rod, how everyone can practice this. But from some details there, you know, in the first 2 videos, we talked about getting the club somewhere near P6, kind of shaft parallel to the groundish. I'm assuming from there through the ball would be the main timing of when we're going from that forward bend flexion into extensions, kind of from there through.
That's right. I would say that's absolutely correct. It's about shaft parallel is when everything now starts to move up.
Yeah.
From a measured point of view. From a feel point of view, golf, it's a very specific position, it's a very subjective feel.
Yeah.
From a feel point of view, some golfers may need to feel like they start to push up much sooner.
Yeah.
Some may need to actually feel like they stay down longer, and that's going to be down to them getting good instruction from their coach.
Yeah.
And a good coach will know this. They'll know what to tell somebody to do. So to your point, yes, it's about P6 where the shaft's parallel to the ground, everything's at its lowest. Now you're going to start to push back up into the follow through. Again, that's demonstrated universally by every good player.
And we would see certainly like the better the golfer, the more they push their hips up and forward.
Yes.
Up and forward.
On that point, key, you can't push, well, I was going to say you can't push up if you're not forward enough. So the last video we did on the forward piece, you can only really push up if your weight's forward enough.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of golfers live. They're never forward enough. So if they push up, they're going to top the ball.
Yeah.
So they're forced to stay in flexion and come through and look like this. So that's the picture that, again, a lot of high handicap golfers will be familiar with because they never got their weight forward enough, far enough forward enough, early enough in the first place.
Yeah, I love that. So like when in doubt, more forward, right? More up from here through the ball. And as you're doing this, Rob, one of the things I like as a checkpoint I've heard you talk about, like to know you've done it correctly is as you're working through the ball, that your belt buckle would be closer to the target than your shirt buttons, right? The belt buckle would be the closest point to the target.
That's a perfect description. As the extension there of the thorax is behind this shaft.
Yeah.
And belt buckles forward. If you look at your swing from the front camera and you finish with your chest in front of your belt buckle, you can start to see that flexion. You know, the description of flexion extension might be brand new terminology for some golfers watching, and they may think that's too much to take on board, but really it's just whether you're bent forwards or bent backwards.
Yeah.
And that's happening throughout the golf swing. And in good players, as you say, there'll be more bent backwards. Enormous power move, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say power, hit the ball higher, farther, shallow angle of attack.
If I wanted to hit the ball the shortest,
yeah, right,
I'd stay in the most forward
sure.
bend, right?
Yeah.
And you look at, you know, anybody, Scotty is probably number one, right? Rory through the ball, enormous amount of extension, and
Absolutely.
that's what helps them to keep their arms straight. So if you struggle to keep your arms straight, it's usually not an arm straight problem, right? It's a body problem.
Yeah, any golfer you look at for the history of time, you would see the best golfers doing that. Let's pause for a moment and then we'll show that alignment stick drill. Okay, Rob, obviously there's different ways to have the golfer learn how to extend through the shot.
Yeah.
But one of the ways I really like, I saw you do a really cool video on, was with the alignment rod.
Yeah.
Talk us through how we're going to do that one, please.
So you're right to say golfers have different choices when it comes to coming through the ball. Once I'm in forward bend, I could pull this club out of the ground just using my arms. This drill teaches me how to pull the club out of the ground with my body. Okay. So set up the alignment stick. Most of you have got one of these in your bag. A little bit longer than a regular golf club, so we can angle it so that it's positioned just behind my trail foot. This has a secondary benefit of helping to feel some shaft lean and some pressure against the back of the shaft, which is, I also like it for that reason.
Yeah.
But for the discussion today, I now have this club, this stick into the ground, and I'm bent forwards. I need to get this stick out of the ground by dragging it forwards and extending my body, keeping my arms straight. And in order to do that, I can drag this stick along the turf for as long as I can. As long as I can helps me to keep moving this weight forward, which, as we've already said, is important. And then at no point am I choosing to bend my arms to bring this away from the ground. Keep my arms straight, take it up to P9, where the shaft's parallel to the ground. Arms and shaft parallel to the ground is really a great checkpoint and a great position to work to in this drill.
And it's really easy to see for Rob from here how the belt buckle, and we'll put some players on the screen, is very clearly closer to the target than the, let's say, the shirt buttons and the head is back, which enables us to be able to do that. I'd love to hop in there for one.
Yeah.
As we're doing this, I also like how when I saw you do this, you had mentioned that as I'm feeling the drag and into my follow through for the shaft lean and the compression, I'm really trying to feel like my wrist angles stay the same.
Yeah.
Is that about right from here?
Stay the same, and for some golfers, feeling that trail knuckle of the index finger knuckle of the trail hand pushing against the back of the shaft, that's nice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So if I were to take that with a golf club, and I know we're talking about a specific point in the swing here, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm really feeling that same dragging of the stick and pushing my hips forward from about here through.
Yes, so from there, the butt end of the club is gonna start to ascend, move towards my hand via that extension that we talked about. And at the same time, you're moving into that side bend, the right tilt, which is the second piece of the description, which we haven't quite got to yet, but the extension is very visible here. Your thorax, your breastbone is behind your belt buckle.
Yeah, love that. And so I'm gonna just hit one with that, and we'll show some hits on the screen there. So as a visual, obviously, in previous ones, of course, my arms are coming down.
And remember, you've got to be forward enough to be able to push up. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll top the ball.
And I think us being some pretty smart guys did this as video 3 on purpose, right? You got to do the other ones. You got to do the other ones
first. You have to
first.
watch the first 2.
Yeah. So the shoulder and the knee are forward. The arms are down.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a position.
Now you're ready.
Yeah.
Push up.
So for me, I definitely feel like I'm pushing my hips forward towards the target, a little bit up towards the sky, and like I'm doing a little bit of that back bend of, the shirt buttons, almost even the neck back into the follow through.
Absolutely, it goes all the way up to the cervical part of the neck.
So I would do 1 or 2 of those drag drills, and I'm going to feel that same thing here. Let me go ahead and hit. And so when I'm hitting 2 to like put these together, and I've felt this before, when I combo them, you know, we don't want to be having 9 swing thoughts.
Nope.
But as I would sort of combine these together, I've thought for a while and would teach, okay, let's get the lead knee forward of the ankle, the shoulder down, but sort of like floating down and forward. And then I'd push my belt buckle forward, right?
And
so it's like,
as well.
Yeah.
It's going up from where it was in the downswing. If you just would put a line or a stick on the height of your belt buckle there, and now you go through,
yeah,
you see how that's the belt buckle's now higher.
Yeah,
That's
quite
some of that
literally.
extension. Again, you can only do that if you've moved down and forwards enough, which is video 2,
Yeah,
which really most people don't ever get there. And so they miss out on this last piece for that reason. They look for that finish position. My finish doesn't look like the professionals. It's because they can't finish like that. Or if they chose to, they'd effectively top every shot because they're too far back as they're pushing up.
hope you guys are listening to that. Really good stuff. So I'm feeling the knee, my cues here are gonna let the knee forward to the ankle,
Yeah.
belt buckle forward.
Yeah.
Knee forward to the ankle, belt buckle forward to the ankle. Let me hit one more like that, then we'll talk about that side bend. Yeah, that one was nice.
That's really good.
So part of this video, and I want to do both of these on purpose, even though it'll be a little longer, is getting from the forward bend into the extension. That's
Correct.
a big part.
Yeah.
The other part that I think a lot of golfers struggle with and need to do well, you know, consistency of contact wise especially, is the going from the left tilt on the backswing,
Where the left shoulder's lower than the right. Yeah.
and then, you know, keeping some of that early.
Yes.
And then how do we transition into the right tilt? So why don't we pause for a second? Let's talk about that next.
Okay.
Okay, Rob, as I'm doing this drill and I'm learning to do the extension piece, I know going from left side tilt or left side bend to right tilt is a big thing people are confused by. And so is there like a simple way as we're doing this one drill and getting the extension that we can get that right tilt in as well?
Yeah. I would use the head on the wall drill.
Okay.
It's a popular one, which really is just the concept of the head being pretty stable throughout the swing. And in terms of this transition through the ball, or this movement through the ball, the head was to stay on the wall. I'll use this stick as you drag. If you're doing the right amount, the appropriate amount of the tilt, which I can demonstrate here, you can see your right shoulder is lower than your left, your right ear is lower than your left. Your arms are up to P9 where the arms are straight, the club's parallel to the ground. That's the checkpoint where the head should still be touching the wall.
Okay.
If it's touching the wall at that point, you're doing the appropriate amount of right tilt. Some people will look at themselves at this point and they'll be coming out of that tilt. That's a common issue, as you know.
Yeah.
So controlling the end point, giving the golfer the destination of arms straight, club parallel to the ground, and saying stop there. That's where you're in full extension. That's the most extended a golfer ever is in the follow through, and it's the most that they're tilted to the right as well. Okay, that's a really important checkpoint for people to learn, and there's a reason why, certainly in my teaching, and I know you use this in your teaching as well, you'll get a lot of golfers to hit balls where this is the end of their swing. Because if you really aren't able to stop and control that destination, everything else is really a lottery, right? It's just not, there's no control. Teach someone to control the club, control the finish, which is both the body and the arms, control the finish, and then they can speed up the swing. And then from there, really the end of the swing is just a little rehinging of the wrists and a bending of the elbows. There's not much more to do.
Yeah.
Pretty much you would agree, I think, that you can get 90, I would say 95, if not more % of your full distance of your swing and your shots just by stopping
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah. And oftentimes you teach people to do it and they hit it farther like that than they were doing before.
And then they say, when can I do a full swing?
Yeah, exactly. So I like that a lot, Rob. The simple version is finishing, let's say when the arms are parallel,
Yeah.
belt buckle's the closest thing to the target relative to the chest,
Yeah.
and the head stays on the wall.
Perfect.
That's a really simple way for you guys to think about this. So as I'm going from the forward bend into the extension, right, as I'm doing this.
You're not raising up.
Yeah, so like if I did the bat, right,
Yeah.
if I was just doing this, just pure extension.
Yeah.
But then obviously as I'm doing the right tilt with turn,
Yeah.
that's how I can combine those motions and keep the head on the wall.
Perfect.
Yeah, so let me hit one like that. So belt buckle closer than the shirt buttons. I feel like my right shoulder, right hip, right ear are all lower than the left. And I'll do one until about arms parallel.
It's a beautiful shot.
That might be my best one of the day, to your point.
Isn't it funny, right? I mean, it blows people's mind that they can hit the ball at least as well, and in some cases, as you say, better than they would do with what they consider a full swing.
Right. Like, well, can I play like that? Or what, how do I do a full swing? Well, why don't we just...
Someone said to me the other day in a lesson, should I play like this on the course? I'm like, yeah. Yeah,
Tommy.
That's a beautiful demonstration.
Yeah, thank you. So I like that a lot, Rob. Obviously, there's a lot of details that we can go over to varying degrees. I like the detail there of that being the point we have the most, the head on the wall from down the line when you guys are watching this. Loads of drills we could give you. I think that's a really nice and effective one. And then doing the drag drill with the alignment rod to learn the extension into the follow through. And as evidenced by a lot of videos we'll put on here, you guys trusting us and the players you see on TV all demonstrate these same movements of the things that you want to learn in your swing as well. Hopefully you watched this one and enjoyed, and watch video 2 and number 1 we did with Rob. We're going to put those cards on the screen for you to check those out. If you don't already subscribe to Rob's channel, go do that. We'll put that down below. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you guys watching.